Hello, and welcome back to my channel. Today I will just be hopefully briefly discussing what I'm planning for my channel in August, as well as like some of my to-be read plans. Now, I did have a just very previous video about a recent library haul, so obviously I'm not going to like rehash all the books I talked about there, but this is the one which I'm currently primarily reading, The Warmth of Other Suns by Isabel Wilkerson, about the Great Migration, which was like the movement of millions of Black Americans from the South into the North and the Western cities between about 1915 and 1970 or so. She covers like three main people throughout the book and their families, and covers like general history as well, both like in general and like Black American history. And there's like so many interesting things in this book, not just about obviously the specific history, but like certain other things, like for example, like the reasons behind certain Black naming traditions, and why even like today, after like 50 plus years of evidence saying like corporal punishment is horrible and doesn't work, why the Black community still uses corporal punishment much more than other communities. And it's all, like based in like horrible things in the past, like racism and stuff, reactions against it. But anyway, I know, I'm sorry if I'm rambling already, but this is like just such a really, really good book, although obviously it's very like emotionally difficult to read about, like lynchings and like disgusting racism, including racism faced in like northern and western states even after they immigrated, because obviously it didn't stop at the Jim Crow South, even if it like manifested in different ways. So it's just like a really, really, really important book I feel like everybody should read. And I will be also discussing this book, which I finished reading a while ago but haven't reviewed yet, Nagasaki, Life After Nuclear War by Susan Southard, which hopefully I will be doing the video for that on August 9th, which is the anniversary of this absolutely horrific war crime. As I mentioned several times, I've been against the bombing since like I was like 14 or 15 years old, so in the mid 90s. But like reading this book just gave even more like reasons to be against them. Like even the US like military authorities and government realized this was like a horrible thing, we shouldn't have done this, so they like did this like horrible like deliberate campaign to suppress information about things that were coming out, like the true extent of like health problems, and like how they destroyed all these cities and stuff. And they even like outright lied about things, like for example, the bombing did not like prevent like 1 million American servicemen from dying. That was a complete like fabrication and extreme exaggeration they made up to justify this disgusting war crime. But anyway, I'll be discussing more about that when I review this book. But anyway, this is just like a really, really important read. I would also highly recommend you guys to read. And also because August of 2022 will be the 60th yahrzeit of Hermann Hesse, the death anniversary. He's my second favorite writer, if you missed my videos raving about him before. So I'll be discussing his books and like just his like personal life in general, and just background information, and like the ways he has influenced my own writing and myself as a person. I have noticed like in the last few months or so, he's kind of been getting like trending on BookTube. A bunch of people have been like reviewing Damien in particular, but I feel, because I have loved him since 1994 when I was only 14 years old. So basically, I'm not trying to sound like an ageist prick at all or anything, but it's just like I've, loved him and been deeply immersed in his writing and his personal life and such, like longer than some other booktubers have been alive. So I'm just basically going to be like bringing the perspective of an elder who's, like been like reading and loving him for an entire lifetime. He's, deeply touched my life. I'm not just like getting into him recently. This is, like a lifelong love affair with his writing. And I also really relate to his, like spiritual journey and many other things he went through in his life. So that'll be like a more personal touch than, oh, I just read this book recently and I thought it was cool, or name recommended this, or oh, name, or I've been raving about this, so I'm going to check it out too, because this is like just like a personal thing I'm coming to. Anyway, these are the books he wrote. Unfortunately, all my Hermann Hesse books are in storage 900 miles away with like 99% of my other books and belongings. That's a long story. I should maybe talk about in depth in another video, but his books were Peter Commonson, Beneath the Wheel, Gertrude, Ross Halde, Knulp, Damien, Siddhartha, Steppenwolf, Narcissus and Goldmund, Journey to the East, and The Glass Bead Game. And he also wrote a number of other like collections, like novellas and short stories, and like collections of stories and poetry, and some like nonfiction works as well. So he's like a really, really interesting writer. And my favorite of his books, I've read all of his novels and a great deal of his like nonfiction and like shorter fiction as well. So maybe I would say I've read at least 95% of everything he's written over my lifetime. So my favorites of his books are Damien, Steppenwolf, Narcissus and Goldmund, Ross Halde, and I also really, really liked Beneath the Wheel. The ones that were my least favorite, or number one least favorite of all time, was The Glass Bead Game. That was just a horrible slog to get through, except for at the and the 3 live stories, and the poetry was excellent. It was like where were you hiding all along, dude? You should have written the entire book like this. It was just, like night and day compared to the actual meat of the novel. And, I really didn't like Knoll. I mean, it wasn't a bad book, I would say, but just it was like really like not very memorable at all, like very, very forgettable. And Journey to the East, that was also kind of like a lightweight, forgettable one for me. And like the other ones are like good too, even though they're not, top favorites or like ones I would consider least favorites. They're just, kind of somewhere in the middle. And Damien had a huge influence on me, as I've mentioned many times. It was the first really adult novel I read on my own, except besides, obviously, of course, I read some adult books for like English classes, but this was the first I was like reading independently as a reader because I genuinely wanted to. And it was just like opened my mind to so many things I didn't, think about or realize were possible at 14, 15 years old. And when I revisited as an adult in my 20s, I must have been like 24, 25, I guess, when I read it for the second time. I was particularly deeply impressed with his midrash about the mark of Cain, how it's like not really something bad at all, like traditionally the Bible interpretation would say, but like the mark of like a special nonconformist, someone who's not afraid to, go against the grain and be different from the crowd. So that's just really, really personally meaningful to me as well. And just like so many other wonderful things about his books and his life, I just can't wait to share with these guys. And I haven't been doing readathons since July because unfortunately they weren't really good for like networking and making friends like I had hoped. So like I'll have to like figure out some other ways I can, build my channel and get more viewers and subscribers and such, because obviously you don't want to keep doing the same thing over and over again, even though it's obviously not working. But hopefully I will be able to participate again in readathons if I do ever get more, like active viewership on my channel. So hopefully you can look forward to doing readathons again in future. And also in other things, I'm going to be, oh, I'm sorry, I still do have a few tag videos to catch up on. I was tagged by a few people some months back, and please, if you guys are watching, don't think I've been ignoring you all this time. It's just, I've been other things I've been filming and life stuff as well. Obviously, I haven't been making videos as consistently as I used to in the past, so that's another thing getting in the way. But anyway, and also for my writing, I'm really, really, really excited. If you've been reading my blog, I've like been thinking back and forth about my it was the 4th book in my the series with my Russian characters. I call them my Russian novels, even though only the first is like set in Russia, like significantly. Obviously, the others have like scenes and stuff in like the Soviet Union, but like the primary seat of the action for like most of them after that is in America. So I just call them my Russian novels out of habit. And anyway, this was the 4th one in the series, A Dream Deferred, Lyuba and Ivan at University, and I stopped really working on it in 2020. The last chapter I completed was in March 2020. Obviously, like everyone knows what happened then. And the last time I worked on the like final, no, not the final chapter, but like the last chapter I've worked on to date, which is unfortunately still uncompleted. I started that in like March 2020 and like worked on it sporadically and stopped working on it in October 2020. But now I am so excited to finally get back to this book. As I've mentioned on my blog, if you guys read that, like I came up with what sounded like a brilliant like plot development on paper, because it just seemed like so perfect. Oh, the Konevs are going to move back to New York City in June 1952 after Lyuba and Ivan graduate from the University of Minnesota in the Twin Cities, because like they have all their family there, and it's like the seat of like culture and intellectual stuff in the art world in the early 1950s. And their 2 youngest children, the last 2 left at home, like have some new intellectual political friends they really started liking when they did like summer camp at the Russian Orthodox priest Father Spiridon, who's one of my favorite secondary characters, runs. He let them come to his camp when they were there for like a week in the summer of 1951. And anyway, it just like totally snowballed from there. I could never figure out which direction to take this storyline, and it was just like going down all these stupid rabbit holes, and I started inserting all these like silly, like goofy, cluttery subplots to like basically force the entire cast, even their like new friends in the Twin Cities, to move to New York City. Like seriously, that's like so deus ex machina and stupid. And I came up with like some redirections I thought could save it, but like not all of those felt natural to the plot either, because they're just like basically like coming out of nowhere, not really working towards them. But I've been like dipping in and out of it and like reading through it over the last like week or so since I got inspired to return to it, because obviously you don't want to go back blind to a book you've had on hiatus for so long. You need to like refresh yourself with what's going on, even if you're not like reading it from like screen to screen from the start of the manuscript to the end. And it's really not as train wreck as I had remembered like all the like subplots that seemed to be introduced in the last quarter or so of the book that I thought I would have to move into the fifth book. They're really, really good. They're, like on point, and they're entwined with the other existing subplots in the book. It's not like they're just, coming out of nowhere. They're like developed from like existing things that are very important to the plot and the other characters, and they're all, like tied together and such. So I'm not going to need to, well, a few of them will need to move to the fifth book because they just aren't like developed enough, or they're just kind of like cluttery and stupid. So anyway, it's really not as much of a train wreck as I remember, and I'm really, really happy to get back to it. And I've decided they're going to be staying in the Twin Cities after all, which was my second plan for them. And they're not going to be in St. Paul like I had originally written them. They'll be in Minneapolis, which I'm really, really excited. But I think that fits with who they are and like the story so much better. I might be talking about that more in future in videos, and as well as on my blog. I've been talking a lot about that recently, but I'm really, really excited about this, and I'm finally, going to get back to this book. I was worried I might never take out of hiatus, and I'm sorry, so sorry if I'm rambling, but I'm just so excited about this. And also another thing, I've been working again on memorizing Canto 2 of Inferno in the original medieval Tuscan Florentine Italian, which I originally was doing very well after I completed Canto 1 last summer. But I was, I was focusing on doing Canto 1 for my big memorization video on Dante's 700th yahrzeit, and so that kind of fell by the wayside, and I wasn't, putting much emphasis on it. But now I've gotten back to it. I've rememorized the first 45 lines, and hopefully I will do a little sneak preview video of that coming up in the very near future. And I have 100 more lines to go after that. Canto 2 has 145 lines. Canto 1 has 136, so it's just a little bit longer. And hopefully I'll be able to do another wonderful recitation video wearing my medieval costume I've worn for Purim and Halloween a few times, and so look forward to that. And thank you very much for listening. I'm sorry if this video was too rambly and all over the place, but it was, totally unscripted and just meant to be a quick one. So thank you very much for listening, and please, I really, really do appreciate seeing comments. When I see likes without comments, more likes than comments, I get really confused and frustrated. Were you just blindly coming through and liking based on keywords? Did you actually watch the whole video, and do you really want to be friends with me? But I really, really do like, seeing comments. And also, of course, I'm really happy to get more subscribers, and hopefully I can become friends with more people on BookTube and AuthorTube. So thank you again for listening, and see you guys again very soon. Thanks. Bye.